Hey guys, so today you and I are going to talk about post-release and what's going to happen after, what happens after you release something. So let's get into it. So the question in question was pretty much that. Frederick, can you explain to me what developers actually do once you have released something? Because I can't understand how can it take so much time to maintain things and so forth? Well, how can you keep on working after a project is shipped, right? And the short answer is it depends a little bit on the scope of the project, but most of the time there's always something to do. Let me explain. So if you are working on a small time project, let's say you're working as a freelancer and you have a delivery that is going to be, let's say, a few months, or it depends on the size, right? But let's say that it's a kind of it's a one-time project type of thing, right? So once you're done, well, if we just assume now, which is never the case, but we assume that you ship and there are no issues, the customers have no feedback or nothing, they're not going to call you anymore, they're just going to be happy with the thing that you ship, which is very, very rare. But it can happen, I've heard. Then you're at that point, you should have already kind of figured, depending on, as I said, if you're a one person company, then you should have already lined up your next customer, if at all possible, because now you don't have anything unless you have like a maintenance contract or something like that with the person who you show your customer. Then you're free to do whatever you want, pretty much. Like, you have fulfilled the terms of your contract, and now there's nothing more that you should be doing with this product until the customer calls you again and says, hey, we want these features now, as an example. So in this scenario, this person who asked the question is absolutely right. There's no way that you are going to be able to sustain a salary on maintaining such a project, because odds are that there's not that much to do. But in a real IT company, when you're working as a true professional or someone who's actually working at a little bit of scale and actually does more serious projects, you are going to have things flock up. Like, you're going to have a backlog that is way much like larger than anything that you could possibly, even if you work twice as fast, you're not going to be able to empty out all the features that the company wants to be built. The problem is never ever that you don't have enough to do in general. The problem is that you never have enough people to do all the things that you want to have done. And when you're working with larger systems, you're usually going to spend more and more time. And that's usually the curve that happens when you're scaling up a company, which is something that stakeholders need to be aware of, which they very rarely are. And the thing is that the more code you have, the more issues you're going to have, and the more time you're going to have to spend on maintaining the code, because, I mean, things go wrong. There are network errors, there are bugs in the system where some part of the system is doing something weird, and it was working, and now 3 different teams shipped different features, and one of them broke the thing, so now you have to do a rollback, and then you need to have operations and like do metrics gathering so you can see what the status is of all your boxes, and see, oh shit, we need to allocate more capacity for CPU or whatever it might be that you're dealing with, right? These things take more and more time the more code you have. And that's still depending on, I mean, it's a full-time job to be an operations person for a mid-sized to large-scale project. But as I was saying, like, you add more people in order to deal with this sort of thing. And even if you do, you still have more things to do than you could possibly ever ship. Like, it's, I'm not sure if this person has noticed this, but if you look at, say, I don't know, Facebook or Google or one like Amazon or so forth, I mean, if you think about how these companies started out, and you look at how massive they are today, how many features did they have in the beginning and how many features do they have today? I mean, we're talking about tens of thousands of different features and hundreds, if not thousands of people working every single day to build all of these things. And some of the stuff you may not even see yourself just because you are a regular user. They might have internal systems, they have customer specific systems, and they have so so many features that you may have never even used in these large scale systems, and so many different products. There is no way, trust me, that you're going to sit idle, because if you even hint that you have a little bit of capacity, oh, I might be a little bit early with this one, or I might be able to do this a little bit quicker, they're going to fill up that space immediately, if it's not already filled up to, like, I think the longest backlog that I have had, which honestly, this is a bad thing, I'm just going to, for reference, to tell you that it was around 10 years long, I think. 10 years. That was the time where you just for fun estimated how long it would have taken. 10 years. I could work there for a decade and I would still, at that, most likely never ever get to the end of that backlog even, and by the time I get there, it's going to be 20 more years afterwards. So what I want you to take away from this is that if you wonder what we do once we've shipped something, it depends a little bit on the size of the project. If you're a freelancer, or if you're working for an agency or something like that, where you have like a consultant, you're shipping something, and if everything works, you're never going to hear from that customer more or less again, or at least until they're going to come back with new requests. Well, then you're going to work on the next project. You're just going to ship that thing, move on to the next thing, and then there's no real maintenance and anything like that. Usually that's not how it works, but in an ideal case it's going to work that way. If you're working for a large-scale system, or a large-scale system, you're definitely going to have more work. Your backlog is most likely going to be longer than you're ever going to be able to finish, even if you work for many years. Because they're IT companies, they ship things all the time. Like, they produce new features. And the more code you have, the more bugs and maintenance that you need to put into, or the more maintenance you need to put into looking after the system, because there are always things that are going on in the error log, in networks that are going down, things like that. There's tons and tons of stuff to do pretty much every single day. And if you by some magic are blocked on things, they're gonna find new things for you to work on, like bugs or things like that nobody has time to solve. Trust me, as a software developer, you're just putting out fires every single day. You don't have a single moment to rest and like just not have anything to do. You're not gonna sit idle. I promise you that. Well, at least for the most case. If you're in a really shitty company where they do really poor planning, you might actually get a little bit bored because there's simply nothing for you to do because of weird planning. Have a great day.